Right now, we are going through a mini Maoist revolution in the United States of America with Obama playing Mao Zedong. I don't think many of you understand the danger you are in. I have an important book in my hand called Out of Mao's Shadow, Stories from the Struggle for China's Soul, by Philip P. Pan, published in June of 2008. I'm going to read you a paragraph about what went on in China underneath Mao Zedong, and I want you to try to put that in context of what's going on in America right now. It says, few imagined the tragedy that would unfold when Mao launched the Cultural Revolution in May of 1996 with a call to, quote, denounce capitalist representatives in the academic, education, news, arts, and publishing circles, close quote. Party leaders in Chongqing, like others across the country, assumed a movement similar to the anti-rightist campaign was underway. Notice anti-rightist campaign? And every time you turn on MSNBC or any of the other channels, you know how they sneer at the word right-winger? Well, they're Maoists, and they would like to see you put into a prison camp at the very least. Whether you know it or not, they're trying to destroy you and your way of life. Don't take it lightly. They're your enemy. I'll continue. So party leaders thought it was similar to the anti-rightist campaign that was underway, and they sent work teams into newspapers, schools, universities, and other cultural departments with orders to identify and purge a handful of, quote, capitalist representatives in the leadership of each institution. But by the end of July, Mao Zedong made clear he had more in mind than a routine witch hunt. In Beijing, his agents had quietly encouraged university students to organize themselves into Red Guard units, and when they clashed with the party's work teams, Mao surprised his colleagues by backing the students. To rebel is justified, he declared. Bombard the headquarters, he commanded. The work teams were withdrawn, and the men who sent them in, top party leaders, came under attack. Edged on by Mao Zedong at Nuremberg-style rallies in Tiananmen Square, the Red Guards were given free rein to unmask, quote, revisionists and capitalist roaders hiding in positions of authority, and they killed them. And there was mass execution across China. Now you say, what the heck does this have to do with America under Obama? It has everything to do with America and Obama. I'm warning you that his alignment with Chavez, with Castro, with Hillary Clinton taking the side of Chavez and Castro, if you do not see the emerging dictatorship in America, you are not only blind, you're a danger to yourself and everyone around you. It may not be that Obama intends to create the equivalent of Red Guards in America, but I'm very worried about something he said during the campaign. Do you have that soundbite, guys? If you do, we're going to play it when we come back, where Obama virtually said that once he had total power, he would create the equivalent of Red Guards. I'll play it when I come back.
Savage. The Savage Nation. Download the podcast at 910KNEW.com.
It is the Savage Nation, troops out of Iraq, a comedian into the Senate, Madoff victims that want you to pay for their bad investment, etc., and so on. We're talking about that and other topics. But before the break, I read to you of what went on in China under the communist Mao Zedong, how he created a Red Guard of the most vicious students who then went around killing other revolutionaries in addition to capitalists. And you say, well, what does it have to do with America? Don't be silly. Obama's just a nice liberal. Listen to this.
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.
Now, if Obama creates a civilian national security force, he will be creating the Red Guards. And they will go after every political enemy in the country the way the Red Guards did for the early communists in Russia and the way they did it for Mao Zedong in China, and you'll know that it's over. And whether this can happen is another story. I'm sure it could happen. It's not a question of could it happen. It's theoretically possible. The question is, will it happen? And I don't think you understand the danger you are in the fact that Obama clearly stated what he was going to do if he won. It didn't mean he would do it the first day. First, he had to do what all dictators do, which is get control of finance, which he did, by the way, with the help of the financiers who he smeared. Don't you understand how this worked? The team behind Obama is so smart that in order to get the capitalists who screwed you in their pocket. They took your tax money in TARP funds and bailout funds and bought them off with it through Goldman Sachs. They even had the audacity under George Bush to turn Goldman Sachs, which was a private investment bank, into a bank so they could qualify for TARP funds. Straight out bunco of the greatest order. The greatest theft in American history was not Madoff. The greatest theft in American history, in my opinion, was not Bernie Madoff. It was Goldman Sachs. It still is Goldman Sachs, in my opinion. What's good for Goldman Sachs is not necessarily good for America. All right. So first he buys off the financiers through bailouts that they're not qualified for, meaning taking your tax money and giving these pigs billions in dollars so they can continue their thievery. Not only in this investment bank, but in many others and in banks in general. Now he owns the banks. Then he takes over General Motors and he rewards the unions and busts out America's premier automobile company. In your lifetime, did you ever think this would happen? Destroys it, decimates it, breaks it apart, destroys it. He breaks up Chrysler and he bails out a private investment group known as Cerberus Capital Management, not even a public company, private investors headed up by a guy who used to be a Treasury Secretary who also came from Goldman Sachs, again, bailing them out with your money. He owns them. Socialized medicine, socialized climate control. One step at a time, one giant step at a time, until eventually he has total power, until he silenced all of the powerful forces in America. Then he could create the Red Guard that he warned you he would create. He actually signaled and told you what he would create. But the vermin in the media, don't get me started because I'll start smashing things here. These nice boys and girls in the media who are literally the people who have ruined this country. These people in television who have destroyed America and are trying to steal your freedom itself are the enablers of the emerging Mao Zedong revolution in the United States of America, in my opinion. It can still be stopped. It can still be stopped if enough of you wisen up fast enough to what's coming down in this country. You understand that?
We cannot continue to rely only on our military in order to achieve the national security objectives that we've set. We've got to have a civilian national security force that's just as powerful, just as strong, just as well funded.